Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. It has finally been confirmed that Manchester City are officially Premier League champions of the 2020-2021 Premier League season. It's been a long time in the making. We've all knew for a very long time that this would happen. We just had to wait before it was mathematically confirmed. But today is that day. Manchester United losing tonight to Leicester means that Manchester City and Pep Guardiola are officially the Premier League champions once again, reclaiming their crown. We're going to be talking all things Manchester City in this video. We're going to be looking back over the season that was for Manchester City, seeing how their rise to Premier League triumph has happened. And we're also going to be talking about what the future may hold for Pep Guardiola's side, because this season could get even bigger and even more historic for Manchester City. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things always and forever be greatly appreciated. But for now, let's get back to talking about Manchester City. Let's get back to talking about the season that they have just had, where tonight they are officially being crowned and confirmed as Premier League champions. As I mentioned, this has been a long time coming. This has been a long time in the making. I think near enough everybody gave up on asking who was going to win the league just after around about the New Year period. But one team who managed to find great consistency and balance when all the others around them failed to achieve that was, of course, Manchester City. Last season, there seemed to be a bit of a reality check delivered to City following a successful defence to their Premier League title the previous year, winning the title twice in a row, obviously what came out of that, and then looking to try and make it 3 in a row during the last campaign. City found it difficult last year to compete with the eventual Premier League champions Liverpool. The Reds steamrolled to Premier League glory with their first Premier League title in 30 years. While second place City found it difficult to maintain pace with the Reds throughout the entirety of the campaign and found certain games more difficult than they have done in previous years. And defensively, they just weren't as resilient as what they have been in previous seasons, or even indeed this current season gone by. But following the end of last season, City reloaded, City reinforced their squad, flexing their wealth once more. They brought in Ferran Torres. He was brought in for just over £20 million, a winger from Spain, before 2 new additions were made to the City defence, which I think we can all agree, including Pep Guardiola himself, who identified it obviously, that was the area that certainly needed strengthening in that transfer window. And the first arrival was Nathan Ake from Bournemouth for a fee in the region of £40 million. And the second was slightly more significant in Ruben Diaz, I guess you'd say, from Benfica for £65 million. More on Diaz in particular later on in the video. So before the season, City's objective was pretty clear. City's transfer business was looking strong. But on the pitch, it was a bit of an average start for City, in all honesty. Before the season began, many were saying that City and Liverpool were the clear favourites to win the Premier League title for this current season upcoming. But City was showing signs that maybe they were lagging a little behind the rest due to having to deal with a delayed Champions League run-in, of course, with how last season happened with the whole lockdown thing, football going on a break and Project Restart. It meant that the Champions League was delayed, a competition, of course, that City were involved in. So that had a knock-on effect on the delayed start to their domestic season. But when the eventual game did come around, City did go on to win their opening game of the season against Wolves, but suffered a pretty heavy 5-2 defeat to Leicester the game afterwards. Already, questions were being asked of City and Guardiola, and more were being asked following City's draw with Leeds a game later. It seemed that the mixed start that City had received, along with how they'd gone about their business and last season on the pitch, had sort of all come together, and people were starting to question whether City were as good as what they were making out to be. The questions were based on Guardiola's managerial ability and how he can motivate his team to continue. This was the longest we've seen Guardiola stay at one club, and many were questioning his team building and team motivating abilities given City's last season and then the previous season gone by, where they'd gone from raising the bar high to kind of falling beneath it. Of course, the drop-off was going to be there, but I don't think many were expecting it to be as big of a drop-off as what it did seem. So the mixed season happened, but points continued to be dropped. Draws to the likes of West Ham United and Liverpool soon followed, before a very poor 2-0 defeat to Tottenham also happened within the early stages of the season. And then serious questions started to be asked even more of Guardiola and of City. But that was when things began to turn around. To use an Office reference, the turntables turned. The focus intensified and City, at least result-wise, returned to what we've become accustomed to seeing of them over the past few seasons. Being difficult to beat and, for the most part, finding ways of beating teams some way, somehow. So much so that they went on a 28-game unbeaten run in all competitions, 19 games unbeaten in the league, before it came to a screeching halt against fierce rivals Manchester United at the beginning of March. Now, for me personally, in my opinion, I don't think City were as flashy or as intense this season or as easy on the eye during this campaign as what they have been in previous seasons. I think they've certainly played better football in previous seasons over this season, but the difference in this campaign was that defensively they were just far superior and far stronger. And it's the sort of cliche, I guess, but I'm going to use it for this instance because it does ring true. Attacks win you games, defenses win you titles. It kind of rang true this season, and there's an element of truth to that. And the example here is, of course, how Manchester City have gone about their business during this campaign. City's attack for some of the season was without their natural strikers of Sergio Aguero and Gabriel Jesus, both of whom had their fair share of injuries, which kept them out of parts of this season. And so, as a result, Guardiola turned to using a false number 9, and normally that was filled by the likes of Raheem Sterling or like Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, or just someone else at various points of the season, depending on what game Guardiola felt was best to go with. City clearly lacked a lethal finisher when this happened, but the goals from other areas, wings, midfield, even defensive goals as well, all came around. The likes of Ilkay Gundogan, who has had a tremendous season, Kevin De Bruyne and Riyad Mahrez, all helped contribute to City's rising consistency and rise in the table during their undefeated streak with the amount of goals that each of them contributed with. Whilst at the other end of the pitch, and in a more defensive manner, we come to Ruben Dias, who, of course, as I mentioned earlier, was brought in at the beginning of this season with the goal of tightening up City's leaky defence from the last campaign. And I think it's safe to say he definitely achieved that goal that was set out for him. A natural centre-back, of course, being brought in felt more, well, natural to the team and to the squad, I guess. He also was able to bring more balance to the squad, and in doing so, and with his ability and with his confidence and presence, I guess you'd say that he seemed to raise the level of the players around him. One such player in particular, of course, was his centre-back partner, John Stones, who this season seemed to be much more improved and much more confident, not only in his abilities of himself, but of course in the trust and partnership that he had conjured up with Dias here. And those two formed a very good partnership, and improving this, of course, they were strong, they were reliable, they were difficult to break down at times and get the better of. They were a key part of City's title charge from right in the heart of City's defence. Other players to mention along City's title charge this year, of course, Kevin De Bruyne. It may not have been his most influential season by any means, but to see him still, to watch him, is still an incredible watch. It's still an incredible and phenomenal watch as always. Phil Foden continues to get better and better with every game. And although I would like to see him more in certain games, Pep does seem to be doing an incredible job with managing him and doing that pretty well. And I can't wait to see how he grows and how he evolves next season, and it only continues to get better because he is such an exceptional talent for his age. It's truly an incredible watch to see him. Elsewhere, like say, Ilkay Gundogan probably had his best season in a long time, scoring 12 goals from that central midfield area and proving why Guardiola has so much faith and trust in him. I think a lot of fans, whether it be from a neutral perspective or from the actual City fan base itself, have probably questioned why Guardiola puts so much trust in Gundogan. And I think this season, during this campaign, we've seen why Guardiola trusts him so much, and I think in return Gundogan has repaid back Guardiola in that respect with the amount of goals and top level performances that he has put into this squad. And I think you'd have to say that him and Diaz are probably up there for player of the year, so it'll be interesting to see that debate, who gets that accolade and that award. Also, I felt that Rodri was much improved this season. I think I've been a bit critical of Rodri in the past, as probably maybe others have as well, coming in for such a massive fee of money. But I think this season he's very much improved in that centre defensive midfield area. And, you know, those are just some of the ones that stick out for me. There are probably others as well. And I just felt that the majority of the others provided their usual displays we've become accustomed to seeing from them. Although I would say Raheem Sterling. Now, for me, Raheem Sterling, not his best season, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. I don't know, I just felt like every time I watched him this season, he's been a bit selfish, he's been trying to do too much for himself, overthinking things. Whether this is just a temporary thing or something, I don't know. It's worth pointing out that Raheem Sterling's season was, in my opinion, pretty poor, because he seemed to decline a little as the season went on, I felt. And like I said, I don't know whether this is just a temporary thing or not, but he clearly frustrated me whenever I watched him. So I can only think what it would have been like for a City fan watching that and watching that frustration build, because yeah, there were just times this season where he just didn't seem like his natural self and he seemed to decline a little bit. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's something in his personal life or whether it's just something that's transpired onto the pitch. But yeah, I just think Raheem Sterling was singled out for having a poor season rather than the others having great seasons. It just is what it is. Of course, it's not just the Premier League that City have found success in. This season could still get even greater. This season could get even more historic, because there's just the small matter of a certain Champions League final coming up for City and Pep Guardiola. Yep, as of a month ago, there were actually talks of City winning a famous and historic quadruple. That's success in the English League Cup or the Carabao Cup, whatever you want to call it, the FA Cup, the Premier League, of course, and the big one, the Champions League. The one that they want to win the most, the trophy that they've wanted all this time, the trophy that puts them amongst football clubs elite, amongst European clubs in their elite bracket. That would be the trophy that would solidify their status in that. Now, as far as the quadruple went, it unfortunately for them ended with defeat in the FA Cup semi-final to Chelsea. Chelsea shattered their dreams of what would have been a famous and historic quadruple. But a week later, City did redeem themselves a little by winning the Carabao Cup, their fourth successive Carabao Cup trophy in a row, and their eighth Carabao Cup and League Cup overall. Of course, the Premier League now is all sewn up, and they've succeeded in winning the Premier League for this season. But the Champions League is obviously the big one for them, and something now they can turn their full attention to. The Champions League, of course, something that they've always wanted to win ever since winning the lottery of that massive money takeover, pumping their squad full of money and the world's best players and obviously the world's best manager and so on and so forth. And they have an incredible chance of making that dream a reality this season. All they have to do is overcome Chelsea again in the final. It's an all-English final in the Champions League in Istanbul. All City have to do is overcome Chelsea and win the Champions League for the first time in their history. And this season could get even more historic, even more phenomenal for them. All that stands in their way is Chelsea from winning that famous and elite competition that is the Champions League. But of course, the Champions League final is set for another day. That can wait. That is in their very near future. As of the here and now, the present, Manchester City have been confirmed as Premier League champions, and that is the bottom line for right now. City regain their Premier League crown, adding another Premier League trophy to their ever-growing collection in what has been a fantastic season for Pep Guardiola's side. And of course, like I mentioned, it still could get even bigger and even more historic for them. And that about wraps it up for this video. As always, like I say, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of Manchester City's season, this campaign, whether it be as far as a league position goes, a Carabao Cup goes, FA Cup goes, or even Champions League? Will they go on to win the Champions League? Of course, that is another question. What do you make of their title winning season? Will they win the Champions League and do the double? All of this remains to be seen, and I'd love to know your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, whatever you want to call them, down in the comment section below. I'm sure it'll all make for interesting reading. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things will always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I will see you all again soon in another video.